Just do it.
All right, how's it going?
Okay, and today we are talking about the evil of residents.
Yep, also known as Biohazard, by the way, in Japan, which, by the way, makes much more sense as a title. Resident Evil makes no sense as a title. Other than, I guess, the residents of this mansion are evil, but then it doesn't make sense for the city, and kind of also doesn't make sense for the mansion either, because they're not evil, they're just zombies.
So why did we Americans? You know why we Americans changed the name?
I think it was a marketing decision on Capcom's Japan side. I'm not entirely sure. I know, like, back then, especially mid '90s, there were things where it was before then too, but like marketing was a thing that you couldn't have things that are the same name in the same region. Like Peter Jackson's Dead Alive. It's originally known as Brain Dead, but we had a movie called that. What the fuck was that? I think I have a ghost. Holy shit, man. I'm just, things are are moving around. Anyways.
Not a Casper ghost?
No, probably a poltergeist because of the pent-up sexual energy. Hey-yo. It's actually what that causes that, apparently.
So is that the same reason why we called Final Fantasy IV 2 and Final Fantasy VI 3?
I think that might be a similar vein as to what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think it's because, like, Brain Dead was already a movie starring, like, Bill Pullman. I believe it was Cronenberg. I'm not entirely sure. But that's why we couldn't call it Brain Dead when it was released in the States. It's now Dead/Alive. I believe that's the story on that one. It could be the reverse.
Well, this podcast is brought to you today by me because I pay for it. I have no sponsors.
Yeah. Really? Not even Raid Shadow Legends at this point? Aren't they sponsoring everyone? I heard that.
Actually, I did get an email from them. I did get an email saying it was from them.
That's sick, actually. It started as a meme. I was recently on Twitter and I saw a meme that was, you know how in like Full Metal Jacket during the Vietnam War, essentially people wrote things on their helmet, moto phrases they're called. So we were thinking of moto phrase, not we, but this person was thinking of moto phrases for the next generation of Warfare's helmets, and one of them was potentially the hardest fucking line I've ever read, which was Raytheon sends its regards, which is, Jesus Christ, that's a hard line. God damn. It just goes hard.
Yeah, I don't play the game. I haven't played the game yet, so I don't know if Phil's right about sponsoring something I don't actually use. The thing I think,
grab that bag, dog. Grab it nice.
Yeah, I might try it sometime. But you know, that's the thing about people. Off topic of Resident Evil fast. It's like people say like, "Oh, you're selling out." No,
that's the plan.
To me, selling out is if you take their money and stuff, and you don't actually like the product, or you hate the product, but you take the money anyways. That's selling out. If there's a
lack of earnestness in that, definitely I would consider that selling out. But if it's like, hey, there's this product, and they're willing to give me money, but I would sell it without the money. But the money helps.
Yeah, but it's like say you're allergic to chocolate, and you take a sponsorship from Hershey's.
I would even say that's acceptable, because if you're allergic to chocolate, it doesn't mean others can't enjoy the product. the product.
True,
You could just
true. But you're right. But you know what I mean. If you hate something, just you take
yeah.
the money
I
anyway.
think a lot of the people who are complaining about people selling out are people who are unable to sell out or monetize their content in any way. When it's like, why be that way? Be happy for someone who can sell out, unless they're hurting people.
If say, I don't know, some pop company I drink would sponsor me, like I'd be good.
Yeah.
McDonald's, I would not take their money because I hate McDonald's. I work there. So
Yeah,
like, no,
it is.
fuck you.
You should use your sponsors.
Yeah, but like I'd be like, yes, McDonald's is great. It's terrific.
Yeah, you can also just like Cumtown podcast I used to listen to for a long time. Actually, I was an episode 2 guy. I started Cumtown in episode 2 and kept going until the end of it. But Cumtown had a spot where they started just making fun of their sponsors during the ad reads. It was pretty great. Oh yeah, there was an American game called Biohazard at the time. Yeah, so I believe that was the reason they called it Resident Evil instead of Biohazard, which I like how they brought Biohazard back for 7 as a subtitle now, because they still called it Resident. They actually called it Biohazard 7 Resident Evil, I believe, in Japan, which is like, God damn it, dude, come on.
Let's start at the beginning. Biohazard Resident Evil, whatever the fuck you call it. Yeah. Was that the first zombie game?
No, I don't believe that is the case. I believe there were like NES zombie games at the time. I believe Sweet Home might have been some kind of zombie game. I've never played Sweet Home, and I haven't researched it in a long time. But Sweet Home is very often considered one of the early inspirations for the Resident Evil series. I mean, zombie media, like, I don't think a zombie video game first would be that important of a thing because zombie media had at the time been well established.
But the game to last the test of time this long, people still playing the original game.
I mean, I think people playing the original game aren't actually playing the original game for the most part. Also, I think most of them are playing the 2002 remake, which, in all honesty, is kind of supplanted the original release from 96. And not like the 96 release is a bad one. It's a trendsetter, a standard in gaming at the time. And it holds up for what it is. It's a survival horror game with pre-rendered backgrounds and preset camera angles. I personally think that the remake in 2002 is one of the greatest remakes. It's like a gold standard of remakes.
Of course, between the one remake and the second remake, there's a long gap.
Well, technically, they just kept re-releasing they did a remaster of the remake, which was just upraising all the assets. And making it run on modern hardware. So there's and technically that was the second sort of re-release because there was the director's cut of Resident Evil on the PS1, I believe, which had extra modes in it. Resident Evil keeps re-releasing their games, and I like that.
Is that the same with Street Fighter 2 being Turbo Ultra?
I think it's a similar phenomenon, yeah, because they're both Capcom, so I wouldn't put it past Capcom to do that with everything they do. But yeah, they just keep releasing. I keep playing them. I have every version of Resident Evil 4 just about. The only ones I don't have are the Ouya version and the iPad version.
I looked at. Let me if I can find it real fast. I looked up when I was looking up thumbnails for this thing. I looked up different ones and. One of them to the screens,
mm-hmm.
and Resident Evil 4 remake has some slight graphical update and stuff, but nothing compared to 2 and 2 remake.
No, I would say it's about not quite the same, but it's a hell of an upgrade. Holy shit.
Yeah, you can definitely upgrade. I can see it. I can see the upgrade from 4 to 4 remake, but when you compare the two remake.
2 remake is with 2 remake, the original didn't have separate fingers, which 4 original did have. Actually, that was a cool thing I thought in Silent Hill 2 is for the most part, every character has separated fingers. At the time, most games tended to go index finger free and the rest of the fingers are kind of this mitt. But Silent Hill 2, I believe, had every character had fully separated, fully animated fingers, and then weirdly, and this was reflected in like the character design art of Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head has a glove that has the pinky separate, and every other finger is like fused together, and that's in the design artwork, which doesn't have like a polygon limit, so it's pretty clearly an intentional thing. And I always connected that with Valtiel in the third game, who has those same gloves and potentially the same like basic outfit. I think they're the same being, but we're talking about Resident Evil, not Silent Hill.
Yeah,
I was just beating the Resident Evil 4. I binged it once it came out. I just played through it. Phenomenal. Holy shit.
Yeah, I played it. I haven't played that. I haven't played it yet because I haven't played any of the games, and I'm not really into.
They're great.
I might do it, but I know what it means. Is this is one game that I played as soon as it came out, and I tried to avoid everything around it. Tried not to look at anything until I beat the game.
Yeah,
it's like
I couldn't get enough of Resident Evil. I had all the like novelizations in I think high school. I got all those. The SD Perry ones, which looking back were not great. They were not the most well-written books in the world. Let's just say there's constant little weird details. Like SD Perry has a weird fascination with 22 caliber, which is bizarre because it's such a shitty caliber. Like for some reason, she thought both the M4s that the UBCS used in 3 and the sniper rifle that Alfred Ashford uses for Code Veronica, SD Perry weirdly thinks they're the same round, which they're not. Like 5.56, even like 5.56 is an intermediate cartridge. That's what the M4 uses, and we think that the rifle that Alfred Ashford uses is some type of either Marlin or Remington, like a Model 70, which is most likely like a 308, which is entirely much more devastating caliber than 5.56. And it was just a weird fascination with that round because it's just never used in the games, except actually I can't think of a time when they've used that. There's like one weapon, like a 22 rimfire Magnum in the remake, I believe, which is weirdly, wildly overpowered. It's like a little Derringer.
Oh, do you know the timeline of the Resident Evil series?
Okay, so Resident Evil 1 starts 1998. That's the first game's time period. That's when it's specifically, I believe, August, if I recall correctly, or June. It's June, July, or August. It's one of those three. Then September is Resident Evil 2 and 3. Those take place then. Specifically over a couple days, I believe. 3 days, the 28th to like the 31st. That's when both 2 and 3 take place. 3 takes place in between, or no, 2 takes place in between the halves of 3. I don't know if the new remake timeline at all shakes up that canon. I don't think so. I think they kept that time. Resident Evil 4 takes place 6 years later. I believe that's 2004, or 2003 or 4. I'm not quite sure on that, though. I should probably do the math myself. Resident Evil at this point is somewhere in, I think, 2019. It's always around current year. Within 5 years of current year. Whatever that year may be. Except 0, which is a prequel. But that's, 1998. There's stuff in the games that goes backwards in, like, time with, like, lore, but all the games take place between 1998 and now.
Yeah, I was watching Snickers doing a live stream of the series this past week when it came out, and I think according to him, he says like this new remake canon is different than the original canon.
I mean, in terms of events, definitely it's different. It's much more streamlined and connects better with the previous like remake timeline stuff. Like the whole part where Luis is essentially explicitly connected to the Nemesis creation team.
So we have two universes then, the original universe and the remake universe now.
Yeah, it's 2 timelines. They branch off of I don't know if we've seen the Resident Evil 1 that occurs within the RE Engine games timeline. Schnick, your mic seems muted. He's trying to speak, but his mic is muted or something. All right. Anyways, where was I?
All right, now
There
here, freaking stupid ass PS4 controllers trying to take priority. So no, RE1 remake has not been. RE1's events have not been shown in like the remake.
Right, because the 2002
RE
engine, the 2002 one is separate from the RE Engine one, right?
Yeah, like the GameCube remake is like part of like, because the thing is like it's nothing new for like the Resident Evil games to like retell events of previous games under like a new under like new circumstances, like the Chronicles games like retold like 0, 1, 2, 3 and Code Veronica like in a different fashion.
Yeah, and they introduced the Operation
Javier. In fact, that's one thing that like pretty much spells out to me that that I consider the remakes, like the RE Engine remakes, to be like fun little reimaginings, but ultimately I still like to consider the original games as what's ultimately canon. Only because if you try to put in like the logic of the remakes and like overwrite like everything that hasn't been remade, it just gets too confusing.
Yeah, essentially, I think there's a diverging timeline that splits off sometime after one.
Like, kind of the way I think about it is the sequels, like RE7 and 8, continue the story of like the original series, and then the remakes are like a fun little reimagining timeline.
I weirdly think that all the RE engines are in the games are in the same timeline. I don't think 7 and 8 really connect to the 5 and 6 we've seen.
They've had Easter egg references to like the later games. Like in 7, there's like a newspaper article you could find that specifically mentions like the Eastern European country that was in 6.
Is that the one that
you could also find a book that was written by the BSAA commander from Revelations 1.
Yeah. Isn't there also an article with what's her name from Outbreak?
Yes, there is.
Forget her name. Ashcroft, right?
Yeah, I think Alyssa Ashcroft.
I believe that's it. My God, by the way, can I just say it was a fucking shame Sheva didn't show up in Hound Wolf Squad. Can you imagine her in the RE Engine tacked up? That would have been fantastic. That would have been great. I just saw also like storyboards of Ada being in Village, and that would have been sick too.
Yeah. There were plans to have Ada in RE8, but then they took her out because I guess they figured it would have made it like too convoluted.
Probably. Being fair, probably. It would have been funny to see her interact with Chris though after 6, and it's like, Chris, I don't know what you don't get about this. That was a clone that wasn't me, and he's just still like, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
He's still getting drunk in Europe, bar hopping. It's so funny to think about. That's probably where Heisenberg heard about the boulder punching is pre-6, post-5. Chris is just taking a bar hopping tour across Europe, getting fucking zooted everywhere. It's a problem.
And it's funny because when Chris shows up in RE7, he looks so different that lots of people didn't even know it was supposed to be Chris at first.
Yeah,
like Capcom had to confirm it afterward.
So
when he shows up again in RE8, they redesigned him back to like more what he looked like in 6.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I love that. It's like, hey, we're gonna try something new with this engine. Oh no, that was a terrible mistake. We shouldn't have done that. I apologize. I remember people were like, "Oh no, it's actually Hunk taking his identity as if that would be a thing that made sense at all. Like, why would he do that?" Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the stars are just some podunk urban environment SWAT team. It does not make any sense that they like are world famous. There's no reason for them to be. Like, they're just SWAT team. They're like of a low enough rung where they don't bring primaries into their missions. That's a bizarre detail, is that none of them have a primary except the guy in the forest who dies. Like, they don't have racks for it on their helicopters, as far as I recall, either. They're just going in with pistols, which is a bad idea for a SWAT team.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they know there's bad shit in the woods because they've seen Bravo team. There's murders going on.
Yeah.
Why don't they have any primaries? It's bizarre. Forrest had a grenade launcher for an interior fucking raid. Why would he even have the grenade launcher?
Man, that's some of the silliness of the series
it
kind of
rules.
likes using.
Yeah. It's just, we have to give the player this weapon because that's what's in games at the time. How do we justify that? Well, this guy had a grenade launcher. It's a mansion. Why would he have a grenade launcher? I don't care. I have on coke. Holy shit. Just give him a grenade launcher.
Oh, is your birthday today, Snick?
It was on Wednesday.
Oh, hey, it is actually currently my birthday. I'm 32 today.
Happy birthday.
Happy late
Yeah,
birthday and
yeah,
happy
yeah.
current birthday.
I mean, yeah. By the way, you know the movie Logan's Run, where
I heard
it's a
the name.
dystopian
I don't
society.
know,
Well, in that
what
dystopian
about-
society, everyone over 30 is killed, and everyone sees that as dystopian. But I think, as someone who's 32 now, I think that's a future we should build.
Oh wow.
Hey, Leo DiCaprio has absolutely incorporated that in his dating life. So why shouldn't we into society?
Yeah, I think this is 2 and 2 remake, right?
That's 2 in the remake, yeah.
Yeah, like definitely different. Definitely.
Well, also, that's from a high resolution full motion video cutscene.
Ah.
That's not even in engine for the original game.
Yeah, like it, because it's so funny because with 2 and 3, you had like the FMVs. I mean, even like Code Veronica had FMVs.
Yeah. 4 was actually the first one to only use in-engine cutscenes.
4 I think was the only one that was in-engine. Like
Yeah,
the whole...
but then they tricked us with the PS2 version.
Yeah, the
They compressed
PS2 version, they use like FMV recordings of
Yep.
like the in-engine cutscenes on the GameCube, which had the side effect of, because Separate Ways was made entirely for the PS2 version.
Yep.
But because the PS2 version couldn't do in-engine, even the HD versions to this day, the Separate Ways cutscenes are stuck low res because they were not made in engine.
Yeah. With in-engine, you can upscale. Can't do that with a pre-recorded video.
But you know, it's so funny because the PS2 version is probably one of the weaker ports of the game. I mean, at the time you had the exclusive content, but then later the Wii version included the PS2 version's exclusive content with the GameCube version's graphical power.
Yeah, but what about the Ouya version? The ultimate gaming experience.
Hell no. Okay.
So
There was an iPad version of it too. There was an iPad version of
I know
NGS4.
there was a mobile version, which was a bit of an impressive effort, but yeah.
It's not a good idea.
So, in the 4th game, they decided to go a different route besides zombies to something else.
Yeah, like
Technically,
the thing
they were
is,
always about not specifically zombies, but bioweapons, which
like the
specifically
Japanese
hunters.
name of the series is Biohazard.
Yeah, but it's specifically focused on, especially these new remakes are specifically focused on like biological warfare and the military-industrial complex, and a lot of conspiracy stuff about like our government's.
Well, not just the new remakes, but like
my
also
buddy.
like the later sequels.
Hey, this guy's here. He can't hear you. It's just a guest appearance by my co-host
Cool.
on my show, Mostly Movies. We haven't done
Nice.
that in a while, actually. We got it.
Wow.
Anyways,
But see, that's one of the reasons I think the Resident Evil series is one of the more fascinating like stories that has zombies in it, because alongside Dead Rising, another Capcom franchise, they are the only zombie stories I'm aware of that does not do a global apocalypse.
Well, yeah, it's the one of the scariest things. It's like, oh, it's just business as usual, kind of.
It's business as usual, but like especially in with Resident Evil, like drops zombies for the most part, and like goes to like regular like bioterror, like just different like bioweapons and all that, like
Yeah,
the
the-
Ganados and all that.
So it's always a contained threat then.
Like, yeah, like in Dead
It's
Rising,
contained
it stays
usually
as
by
the
the-
zombies, but like it's only like outbreaks in like single cities, but otherwise society stays.
until like 6, and then shit got real weird.
Yeah, well, RE6, that's like the closest like the games actually came to like a full-on global thing.
Yeah, because
They stop it in the end.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you had to get another. You don't want your heroes to lose at the end in a video game usually.
Yeah. And then you have the live action productions, which are
I can't hate on them. They made me want to be a
Anderson
filmmaker.
movies where they do go the stereotypical route, and they suck. So that's another.
I mean, I can't say that. I love them all except Extinction. They
They
all have their own charm. Once you realize they're actively trying to be stupid as fuck, something clicks.
Yeah,
It's like,
like,
I'm
you
going
have
to. I'm
go
going
in
to.
there
I don't
that
know.
they're just
Capcom
stupid.
keeps giving him properties, so I can't assume that they don't like his work.
But I guess if it's different between actively trying to be stupid and being stupid on accident or accidentally being stupid or
Yeah,
purposely
what the Resident
stupid.
Evil movies, the live action ones, are typically referred to, in my opinion, are the gonzo, where it's just, this is dream logic. It like doesn't really make sense, but it's like fascinating how little sense some of the stuff makes. It's
So
a
those are
spectacle
just the
show.
Anderson movies. What do you have to say about the Netflix show?
I did not see the Netflix show. I wanted to see it because of Lance Reddick, R.I.P. Also, I watched
the thing is, everybody hated the Netflix show because it was like a confused identity. It was like trying to say, "Oh, it's canon with the games," when in reality, it just used the games as a basis.
Well, yeah, it specifically took place after 5, after the volcano incident, right?
Well, no, they say it takes place like after 8.
No, I'm making a joke about the lava.
Yeah, but I mean, people were making jokes about how Lance Reddick's Wesker, like the one scene where he actually puts on the RE5 outfit, and made him look more like Blade.
It was pretty funny. Resident Evil 2, yeah, much better than Welcome to Raccoon City. Although I will say, there are a lot of elements in Welcome to Raccoon City that I kind of liked. Just the overall part of it was just like this. If it was just a ripoff, I would have liked it more.
But so keeping this to the first 4 games right now.
Well,
have you guys played both the original 4 and the remake 4?
Yeah.
Yes. And the VR 4. I've also played that one. It's insane. Level of mobility on that's fucking wild. It's awesome. And then someone who kind of does tactical like training a little bit, like, not officially, but I shoot occasionally. I know tactical stuff, so to know that. Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's go back to the mid '90s when Resident Evil 1 first came out. Well, what do you guys think of it?
I didn't discover Resident Evil until like 2002.
Okay, so
it was the GameCube stuff.
You know how my story is when. Speaking of which, because the opportunity allows for it, if I can pull it out safely, just have to give me 1 second. Some PS1 games right there, just like that. Being extra careful.
If Welcome to Raccoon City hadn't tried to be both the first and second game at the same time, would have been much better. Hell yeah. Also, look at that fucking monstrosity of a weapon on there.
Yeah, where it's like I think it's like both a shotgun and like a...
It's an AR receiver. It's a Remington 870 pump. It's an amalgamation.
Yeah.
We think that's like Richard, I think, or Forrest.
I think it's... Yeah, I know this is not Chris. It's either Richard or Forrest. I think Richard...
The shotgun style suggests Richard, but it being crows there being crows around suggests Forrest. Weird, because it's not Forrest's grenade launcher.
Yeah.
I don't even think Richard had a shotgun in the original version. I think that was made for the
I know
remake.
he did in the remake, but I don't know about the original.
Yeah, I don't think he did, actually. So that doesn't make any sense. Who is that? Who is that?
I have no idea.
I'll kill you.
But yeah, I pull this out because this was the very first release of the game. So, you know my history with the series? I did not know anything about it. Well, I knew a little bit about it because of like GameFAQs popularity contests.
God.
Like they always had like these character battles.
Yeah.
Leon and Jill would always like make it to like the finalist rounds, but then they'd be taken out by Link sooner or later.
By the way, very funny fact about Jill is somehow Jill is supposed to have at like 18 trained with Delta Force.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible. Like literally in their doctrine at the time, women were strictly disallowed.
Wow.
You had like men under 30 were disallowed for Delta training. It was a very, very elite group back in the day. Back before we even acknowledged them legally. I believe they were still Article 11 or 12 or something. They were still deniable operators back then.
All right.
I remember when it was years ago when Snick was playing, I think the first remake on his channel. I was watching it or participating with him, I think. Maybe someone else. But I think it was the first game we had to burn corpses for them to prevent them from ever coming back again.
That is in the first remake, yeah.
Yeah, the Crimson Heads, which, by the way, I really loved in 4 Remake, where that phenomenon kind of occurs with the Ganados, with the Plagas. Where they kind of start doing that, and then you can just shove a knife in there and stop them. Thought that was pretty cool. A lot of great little details in 4 Remake.
Anyways, to quickly wrap that up real quick. So, yeah, I knew a little bit about the series. I didn't actually experience it for the first time until like 2010 when I got the original RE2 off the PlayStation Network because you could buy it for like the PS3, the PSP. I played it a bunch on my PSP, largely because I wasn't allowed to play games on weekdays, and playing on PSP and DS was the best way to sneak it on during weekdays.
Gotta get creative.
But yeah, so especially because of their sleep modes. But that long box I just showed, I was only a day old when that hit store shelves.
Oh, so you're giving us your birthday now. Now I can steal your identity.
Well, my birthday was, I said earlier, my birthday was on Wednesday, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. I just realized that The Matrix was released literally the day before my one of my birthdays, which is very funny because it's such a keystone thing for me that I didn't even remember that part of it, where it's like, oh, I was 8. When it released, I turned 8 or whatever the year was. I 91, so about 7, 8. Oh,
so
yeah.
Wait,
really? That's true. I don't even recall that. That can't be. I mean, Becca's not lying about himself, but that's hard to believe with Silent Hill 2 on PC because I'd forgotten Mecha ever did PC gaming. Sometimes I forget that because he's a console guy now.
So what's the difference between Silent Hill and Resident Evil?
Silent Hill started as a Resident Evil 2 like ripoff, but it swiftly changed into something that's more David Lynch inspired. It's very psychological horror, very influenced by like a lot of J horror at the time, a lot of American horror at the time, specifically David Lynch. And I think David Cronenberg also, a lot of his stuff is like influential there, but a lot of like artists that the creators liked. Masahiro Ito, by the way, a fucking gem of a man on Twitter. I love him. He's the best. He's the guy who designed Pyramid Head. And he's phenomenally funny guy. Just a sweet man who's very, very funny. I like him. He's got this meme going on where in Silent Hill 3, one of the things Heather goes to is a bread shop, and you can examine the bread because you can examine items in survival horror games, and she just looks at the loaves of bread and is like, it's bread. And that's become a very funny meme where it's just Heather just appearing and going, it's bread.
Doesn't she also say she doesn't want to eat it either?
I believe that's a secondary, like, if you keep pressing the issue, she'll be like, I'm not going to eat anything from here. This is a weird alternate dimension. I am not eating here. There's also a really funny bit in the, like, I think it's the official guide or the instruction manual where it says Heather will look at things she wants to interact with, and it's like, yeah, me too, Heather. I get it. She's shy.
Well, that is an actual mechanic of like Silent Hill 2 and 3 where because unlike Resident Evil, where like key items have like the earlier games anyway, where like key items like kind of shine to like show you where they are. Silent Hill, they're more presented as they are in the environment. Lots of times they can blend in. Yeah. So the key thing you need to look out for is when like James or Heather, like they like turn their head as if they're looking at something.
That's yeah, it's just it was so funnily worded. It was like pathetic almost, where it's like she looks at items she desperately wants to interact with but can't because of her crippling anxiety. I get you, Heather. I feel you.
So what's the story? Before we start fast, I wonder how come the story fast, but how come they never continued the entering the door cutscenes from the first game?
Just because that was a thing it was to build tension. It was kind of a limitation they had to work around, and they did it in a way that helped build tension. But games have been able to render going through doors, for a while now, and so why keep that mechanic if you don't really need to?
True. So, all right. So, what's the story of the first game?
Okay, so first game is Stars is sent in. They are sent into a mansion in the Arklay Mountains somewhere in the Midwest, which is somehow a small Midwestern town, but it's a large urban environment called a city called Raccoon City. It's like, that's one of the funniest things in the Zero intro, where it's like a small Midwestern town, Raccoon City. And it's like, towns and cities are different, dude. They're just different populations. So it's weird to call that a town when literally it's in the name, city. It's like, this small little city, New York City, Manhattan. And it's like, okay. But, okay, so their SWAT team, which is somehow world famous, gets sent in to investigate a bunch of cannibal murders. So, Bravo team gets sent in. They scope out the mansion. They don't reply. They lose contact with Bravo team. Alpha team's sent in. Alpha team is weirdly under-equipped for this mission, but they get trapped in the mansion because of dogs in the forest that are ripping people's throats out, and shit happens. It's discovered that this mansion is a bioweapons research facility. It is essentially there to not just test the virus as a chemical weapon, but also the monsters it produces. That's something that really didn't click for me until embarrassingly recently. It's like, oh, they're not really just selling the virus. It's also this super soldier program, the Tyrant. I guess I hadn't been paying that much attention when I was younger, maybe. I don't know. But once it really clicks, it's like, oh, okay, it's about IFF, friend-foe kind of identification style stuff they're going for now in like the animated movies with Glenn Arias and Vendetta.
So was the zombie thing just a side effect of the super soldiers thing?
Essentially, yes. The progenitor virus produced the T virus, which produces, in most cases, zombies. In some cases, very rare cases, it produces an almost invincible super soldier. The Tyrant, the ultimate life form. In some cases, there's like genetic engineering that creates these things. The Hunters, the Chimeras. The Cerberuses are essentially, I think they're infected to increase their aggression for the most part. And they're still working out the controllability aspect of it. After all, what good's a living weapon if you can't control it?
So about you, Snick, you thinking about the first story that you liked or want to add?
It is curious because to date there has been no version of the first game's story that has been depicted in full canon, because
can't actually. There's no one playthrough that can be.
There is no one playthrough that can show you what really happened. Like in canon, Chris, Jill, Barry, and Rebecca all make it out, and then Wesker has his fake out death. Like, there's only one path where Wesker doesn't have the fake out death, and that's Jill's best ending.
Which is usually touted as the canon ending, isn't it?
I don't know. All I know is that you can't get, like, a canon ending route, no matter what version you're playing. Whether it
you can't have Jill and Rebecca on the same helicopter. And Ben Barry, you can't have them all on the same helicopter.
Yeah, you can't get all four of them on the helicopter, because if you play Chris's game, Barry completely disappears after the opening and he's presumed dead. And if you play Jill's game, it's like Rebecca doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
So
technically, I guess Barry could have just left if he doesn't exist in Chris's game.
So
It could be an explanation, I guess.
is that like 4 different timelines then, and that's one game alone?
No,
Well-
it's kind of just games at the time had multiple endings.
Well, it's funny because there used to be this YouTube video series. The YouTube channel name was called RE Stories 1. They edited together basically game movies of like the Resident Evil games. And like they chopped them into parts and everything. The first installment of the series was titled Raccoon Forest. Like it did RE0's events, and then it did RE1. Like basically it like edited together 0, 1, and Umbrella Chronicles, like kind of just tell the story of like what happened like during the mansion incident.
Yeah.
That series used very clever editing to combine the Chris and Jill scenarios into a cohesive story. Like basically it did the Jill story as a base. Like the way it starts is with the Jill story, like Jill, Barry, and Wesker making it in the mansion. But then to explain where Chris was, it has it to where Chris like ran on the outside, like around the outside of the mansion. He ends up in the woods, and like he's on his own. Like he has the first Lisa Trevor encounter. But then he makes his way into the mansion after Jill, Barry, and Wesker have split up. Like he makes it to the front hall. Like he discovers like one of Jill's guns abandoned. Then he finds Rebecca, and then like they just kind of like combine the two together.
It's also very funny to see in Zero that the stars do have like weapon lights in cutscenes, though.
Mm-hmm.
Never anywhere else. Like Rebecca in the opening intro to Zero has a flashlight mounted to her pistol. It disappears the second you get into the game. There's no reason for it to disappear either. It doesn't get lost or anything. It's just gone.
So, if it's not officially in your head canon, how would you put all these 4 stories together? And
I kind of
basically how I just described it for the video series, because the reason I say there used to be the videos, that channel rebranded itself and took all the videos down.
Are they Residents of Evil now? Is that
No, no, it's not that channel.
Yeah. I like those guys.
I guess that's people's prerogative, but I know sometimes I like to watch my old stuff, even how cringy it may be, and says, "Wow, I've sure grown a lot from my cringy days to my."
I have stuff from 11
days.
years ago up.
Code Veronica is a couple of months after 2's events.
I believe like 6, right? 6 months?
No, I think it was about 3 months. Like I think.
Yeah, see, it's one of those two.
It's because I believe Code Veronica takes place in December of '98.
I don't know. I'm not going to confirm or deny that. I don't have that info on me.
Now you said 2 takes place in between 3, or 3 takes place in between 2.
So basically,
2 takes place in between 2 halves of 3.
So basically what happens is 3 is what starts it first. You play as Jill. Jill gets infected with the T virus after like her big fight with Nemesis. And then she gets knocked out cold. Carlos like takes her in, like he keeps her safe. While she's knocked out cold, that's when the events of 2 occur. And then Jill wakes up about 2 days after 2's events end.
Yeah.
I would say the game is canon with maybe elements of the rail shooter. Like that's the thing. Like every telling of each game's events does things differently.
Yeah.
That said, the rail shooter version of Code Veronica is very important to the original Operation Javier. And while I was really happy the RE4 remake remembered that happened, I read the files in game for RE4 remake, and it seems like Operation Javier. I mean, while it is a lot of it is like kept classified, the way they demonstrate it seems to imply that the Operation Javier of like the remake universe was completely different.
Potentially. I don't know the original Operation Javier. I just
basically
know
it builds off of Code Veronica.
Yeah, I sort of know vagaries about it. I don't know like what Krauser. I know Krauser is affiliated with the United States government at that point with Leon.
Like the
They're
key
part of that.
difference is that in Dark Side Chronicles, the original Operation Javier, Leon and Krauser are partners on that mission, and like it's basically just the two of them going against like a drug lord.
Yeah, but then that drug lord has bioweapons, right?
Yeah, the drug lord has specifically he has the T Veronica virus from Code Veronica.
Yeah.
And what happened is in the RE4 remake, well, they first of all changed Leon and Krauser's relationship. Now he was his commanding officer. He was the one who put him through the training to become a government agent.
I don't know if that's specifically true, actually, because I think those guys just, I know they're depicted sparring, and there is a level of Leon was Krauser's subordinate, but I don't think like there was a mentorship going on.
Okay.
That's at least the vibe I get from them.
Well, then the one file you read, number one, it never explicitly says that Leon was part of Operation Javier. But then again, there is dialogue that seems to imply that he was, but I think it's optional.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there is a layer of it is a very classified operation. The T virus, T Veronica virus, that shit cannot get out to public knowledge yet.
Yeah,
like it is for the most part. I think the zombie shit has been kept as under wraps as possible.
Yeah, like that was like one of the big catalysts of RE6's events because the president then was going to come forward and Derek Simmons.
Yeah.
And then so what happened was the main difference with RE4 remake is that it seemed like they had a whole squad and Krauser was the only survivor of it, recorded survivor of it. Like if Leon was involved, they probably kept his involvement under wraps completely. Then another thing is in the original RE4, Krauser is a double agent working for both the Los Illuminados and Wesker.
Yeah.
But then the remake makes it to where he's full on just with Los Illuminados.
Well, I think it's that he betrays the U.S. government and he no longer is affiliated with the U.S. government at the start of Resident Evil 4, the original.
Hey, real fast. Is the president in 6 the same president whose daughter you rescued in 4?
Yes. I mean, until literally the opening cutscene where he gets shot in the face as a zombie. He's no longer president or alive at that point.
Oh, look, I got a bot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, like in both the original and the remake, they make it clear that it was Krauser that abducted Ashley.
Yeah.
Like that's how Sadler managed to get her because
God, you know what's so funny is in the remake, in the early scenes of the remake, you know when you go into the house and you talk to Hunnigan for the first time in the remake, where he's like, "Baby Eagle, the president's daughter." It's like, Leon, literally, that's what the code name is for. Don't say the president's daughter, dude. Yeah. Jesus, breaking OPSEC, man, come on. Which, by the way, I always thought I think that's a very funny perception that people have of, well, why didn't they just send in SEAL Team 6 and it's like they don't understand that it's a sovereign nation that would be an act of war, an allied sovereign nation. They're sending in one guy to scout it out, and then he just ends up saving the day.
Mm-hmm.
I joked about this a little bit with Snick and Brandon when we were playing earlier, but in some games, escort missions are just terrible. But how was your escort mission in RE4? Was it?
I mean, in the original, that's one of the ones that's cited as being the bad one. But I really actually enjoyed it in the remake. I just constantly shoved her into lockers like a nerd or something, or like garbage cans where she belongs, and just killed all the Ganados. Like John Wick. I John Wicked my way through the entirety of Spain. It's fucking great, actually. Holy shit. I love that you can mount the biosensor scope on the MP5 in the remake. It's so sick. Or an ACOG. Or even the fucking big-ass... I think that's like 10 times scope or something. The 3 levels of magnification scope. You can mount that on an MP5. Nice.
Well, and the funny thing is that MP5 wasn't even in the original.
No, yeah, nor was the M4. It's like, oh my god, they made this game perfect now.
Yeah.
Although I would have liked a non-Iron Sights view of the M4. Or 933 technically, because of barrel length.
So Snick, you had no problem with the escort at all?
Well, they made it overall better in the remake because you don't have to manage her health anymore.
I've only shot her 3 times.
Yeah, like in the original, if you accidentally shot her, like she would die instantly.
Oh, friendly.
But then in the remake, she just simply goes into the down state, and you have to help her up.
So the original had friendly fire.
Oh, the new one has friendly fire on the enemies. That's sick. There's a corridor with 2 Ganados in it. The blind enemies with the Wolverine claws.
Yeah.
I got one of them to hit the other. And take out like 3 cultists. It was sick. And then I just follow up with an MP5. Sick. This is the second playthrough, I believe.
Right. So that orphan you rescued in 2, it comes back in future games too?
Ashley never comes back in the games.
I thought maybe I think someone else then.
You're thinking of Sherry from Resident Evil 2. She reappears in Resident Evil 6 as an adult.
It's funny because when we saw like the first trailers for 6 and we see Sherry in them, many people did think it was Ashley at first.
I believe I thought it was Ashley at the time. Yeah, because I'd forgotten about Sherry.
And that's the girl that we rescue from the sheriff or something in the orphanage?
In 2, yeah. It's the daughter of William Birkin. She's also infected with the G virus, but has it under control.
Yeah, and that does become a plot point in RE6 because like she takes like a massive shrapnel wound, and then she has like Wolverine healing factor powers because she just heals from it.
Yeah.
So she can like immune to the virus, or she can take it without being a zombie fight or whatever.
She has a level of immunity to the virus that allows her to get all the benefits, the regenerative abilities, and potentially a little bit of enhanced strength and slowed aging. Like Jill has that now. She's slow to age now because she's synthesized a bit with I forget which specific one, probably T Nemesis or something. But she's now infected with the virus. She's technically a super soldier bioweapon herself, but she's fighting for the good guys, quote unquote.
So so they both got all the benefits about the side effects.
Yeah, I mean, but they probably have to take some level of antiviral routinely, but we never see that on mission that I can recall.
Mm-hmm.
So are all of these things just viruses, or are there any of them bacterial weapons too?
I mean, the Los Illuminados use the plagas as their parasite.
Okay.
So they're a living organism that just takes over other organisms' brains. I think there's some level of sonic direction with that one, with the plagas. Those were really introduced for more friend-foe detection purposes, I believe.
When I was watching the 4th game being played and the tentacle came out, like is that stuff, or is that like an alien invasion?
No, it's just like a crypto's cryptid, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
It would just be considered a cryptid. They're an ancient species of parasite that were found in a mining operation once.
Oh, so like a fungus to take over ants and stuff?
Essentially, the cordyceps thing, yeah. But this can go for people.
Fun.
Yeah. No, there's a weird level of like science to the Resident Evil stuff when you look back at it as an adult rather than just being a high schooler and like not really understanding the science behind it, but like, oh, that's just zombies. But it's like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty horrifying. It's like you're still potentially conscious as a Ganado, and then at certain points you just go crazy because the parasite takes over, or you're always crazy. Who knows what level of agency you have anymore? Or
like you, even worse, probably you know what you're doing. You're still conscious inside yourself, but your body is not.
Yeah, like the guys in System Shock, the many.
It's funny because in RE4 remake, it actually straight up implies that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right,
like what it is, like an alien?
No, like basically you can see what you're doing, but you're not yourself.
She does regain some level of control to shoot the other cultists rather than Leon, and then luckily the gun jams. Which, by the way, HK, come on. Kendo,
What?
what's up? What's up, Kendo? Why is your gun jamming? I thought it was custom tuned.
So 2 and 3 all take place in the same city.
Yeah, Raccoon. 1 takes place on the outskirts in the mountains around Raccoon City. Then Raccoon City gets nuked at the end of 3.
And
Using nuclear weapons in country. It sucks.
It's funny because the way they depict the city's destruction is different depending on the game. So, let's see. In the original game, it's shown as like sort of a nuke, but I think it's implied that there's like multiple missiles involved. The Outbreak games show it as like a massive like missile strike of like multiple different missiles.
Yeah.
Then, let's see. Then I think a single missile was shown like in Umbrella Chronicles because it shows RE3's events. And then the RE3 remake just makes it a nuke.
Yeah. I think it was always told to be a nuke, but they depicted it differently depending on the game. But I think it always tells you it's
Outbreak games that like may have said otherwise that it wasn't a nuke. Like it was.
I actually think Outbreak is like nukes and other shit.
Yeah.
So somewhere between 1 and beginning of 3, something escaped from the mansion to the rest of the city.
Well, no, they also have a lab under the city.
Oh, okay. So it's not.
Umbrella owns Raccoon City.
So basically the way it went is that, so the mansion incident happens and like the city is fine for like a month or 2 afterward. I mean, there were still like isolated like monster attacks, but the point where it goes critical is when you have William Birkin. He wants to keep the G virus for himself because it's his life's work, and he wants to sell it to the U.S. government.
Which Umbrella was likely already doing, by the way.
So what happened?
He's trying to cut them out, I think, was the thing.
So he's defecting from Umbrella, and Umbrella doesn't like that, so they send in Hunk's squad to take the G virus back from him before he can escape with it. He pulls a gun on them, not wanting them to steal his work, and they just shoot him down.
They shoot him down because of a thermos, by the way. He accidentally drops a thermos, and he gets full of holes.
That's at least how it is in the original game.
I think it was also Hunk was telling the guy after he shot, like, holy shit, stand down, dude. We want him, too. Because they were trying to bring him in alive.
I mean, in the original, I think what he yells out is like, no, you might shoot the sample.
Yeah, but literally, it's made a point. He's a soft asset.
Him too.
Yeah, he's a soft asset, it's called.
Yeah. So did he give did he infect his daughter with the virus on purpose then?
No, he was a monster at the time.
What happened is, so he gets shot down and like Hunk's team like starts to leave with like the G samples. But the thing is, Birkin still had 1 sample of the G virus with him. So he injects himself with it to save himself. And in the remake, he also does it on purpose because he wants to kill them for nearly killing him.
Yeah, he knows what's going to happen there.
And like, so he mutates into into the G creature. He slaughters the whole squad except for Hunk himself, and he also shatters the case that had a bunch of T-virus files in it. Then the rats in the city sewer system end up ingesting the virus, and they are the ones that like spread it across the city. Like it also gets into the water supply, and that's ultimately how the
so it's like the Black Plague almost. The rats spread.
Basically.
Yeah, and also it's been being spread by the corpses that have been from the pre-1 zombies getting up and moving around and biting people.
Mm-hmm.
That's just on a much smaller scale, though.
So, like the zero from the Zero game?
So
no, from prior to that, the murders that are being investigated prior to even 0.
Okay.
Because 0 and 1 take place on the same day. Somehow. I don't really consider 0 canon, weirdly.
I think they imply that 0 and 1 1 takes place maybe a few days after 0, and like
I think it's like hours.
It might be a day or 2, because I think they kind of show, at least in Umbrella Chronicles, they kind of imply that Rebecca's like going through like insomnia because of 0's events.
Maybe. it is at least multiple hours because 0 ends on a sunrise.
And then
1 starts in a night.
it starts at night, and that's another sunrise. So
Probably
it's
at least
a
24
day.
hours or 20 or somewhere around 12 hours. Yo, one
So, anyways, you were asking about why William Birkin wanted to give the virus to Sherry. Well, that's just simply because the G mutant was under a natural instinct to, well, procreate.
Yeah, the virus's purpose is, as all viruses
To
have this purpose, is to
and
biologically
the thing
reproduce.
is, the virus, like, the thing is, like, Birkin goes around giving, like, G embryos to different people, but the thing is, they gotta be blood relatives for it to work properly, because if the G embryo is given to, like, somebody who's, like, not a blood relative or compatible, all that happens is that incomplete G embryo, like, is like a xenomorph chest burster, and, like, well, or at least that's how it is in the remakes. The originals made it even worse. They didn't just burst out of their chest. They literally ripped their upper torso in half.
Oh, yeah, Ben Bertolucci died bad in the original.
And also Chief Irons gets
Yeah.
it.
He died pretty bad in the remake, though.
I mean, it does depend on the... Well, in the remake, it's just like an alien chest burster. Like,
yeah, and in the remake, Ben just gets his head smashed.
Now, in the second game or second remake, whichever one, that the big guy that chases you around all the time is like a
it's
a
a
soldier?
tyrant.
T-103, Mr. X. In the original, there's implied to be multiple of them roaming the city.
Yeah, and I think those multiple are shown like in the Outbreak games.
No, that's like a separate one, I think. You might be thinking of Operation Raccoon City, where there's multiples.
Okay,
although it could be an Outbreak. I don't recall File 2 that much.
Because I believe there were more Mr. X units in the Outbreak games.
I don't think that was a Mr. X unit, though. Like,
or
Mr.
X,
X,
possibly part of the same sub tyrant series.
I think that guy might have been an accident.
So
Mr. X is designed. That guy, I think, might have been an accident.
So the tyrants and stuff, is that on purpose? Like that they're supposed to be super big buff soldier guys.
Well, yeah. The reason why Mr. X was deployed in RE2 is specifically to recover the Sherry's pendant that has a G virus sample inside, and it's also to silence witnesses.
Yeah. And then Nemesis was sent in specifically to deal with the STARS unit, the remaining STARS unit. I really like that in 4, where they really explicitly connected Lewis to the Nemesis creation. I wonder if there's actually any hints of that in 3 make. I should play through that intro again, see if I see a guy who looks like Lewis.
Real fast, Snick, off topic. Can you check your Skype to see what, since Brendan's off work now, what his ETA is?
Okay.
I turned my Skype off my computer as it was lagging like crazy. But anyway, so the sheriff guy, is he working for someone?
Sheriff guy? Wait, hang
on. Whoever he was.
Are we talking about Irons, Chief Irons?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was an umbrella operative that ran the police station, the police of Raccoon City.
Okay.
He was being paid, to look the other way on certain things, to discredit the STARS unit, fire them essentially, keep them from investigating further.
And is that why he was holding Sherry in that?
I think it's just because he was essentially being a babysitter for Birkin. It was essentially more of a favor to Birkin at that point than Umbrella. Okay. In my opinion, that's how I read it. But yeah, it would also serve Umbrella's purposes to hold on to Sherry. But I think that was more because that was his job, was to keep Sherry safe to some degree.
Oh, so it was keeping her safe.
Not safe, but compliant, I guess is the better word.
Okay, that makes more sense. Like
unaware.
I mean, the reason why Sherry's in the police station, at least in, because it's actually really interesting because Dark Side Chronicles has like these these hidden files. It's a couple of phone calls between Sherry and her mom, Annette. Because, like, basically it explains why they all explain why Sherry was in the police station in the first place. Like, the first phone call is Annette calling Sherry's school, like trying to get her to leave school because Annette knows that like the outbreak is coming and basically wants Sherry to make it to the station with the pendant.
Yep.
Like, she instructs her to go home, like she gives her like explicit instructions like to avoid people like on the streets. Like, she doesn't outright say what's going on, but she tells, like, she's making it very clear it's a dangerous situation.
So I know in the I don't know if it was the original, but I know in the at least in the remake, there's a one part where you control Sherry and you're hiding up in the attic.
Yeah, that's when they
that is in the remake.
Yeah, that's the isn't that the first like no, that was in which part of the two make started the regenerator enemy? Because I thought they were gonna play more on that design in the 4 make. They kind of didn't. They kind of just went much more
mean
classic.
like the zombies that like you needed to like they had
the high
like,
power ammo
health. I think that was in like I think they were introduced in like those side stories that like those little the ghost survivors.
Yeah.
And then they became a recurring enemy in the RE3 remake. Like
yeah, that's why I thought they were going with the regenerators in terms of like how they were going to design
they weren't exactly like the regenerators from 4 in that you didn't have to kill weak points. Basically, the idea is that you had to beat them down faster than they can heal. Like, you actually had to like knock them out because if you like let them sit for too long, they would just regain their health.
Yeah, it's weapons tech, basically generational improvements in weapons tech would probably be the explanation for that, actually. Why they look so different. Plus, they have a different pool to draw from in terms of bodies. Resident Evil gets fucking wild, dude. Just gets crazy.
So when 2 ends, the second half of 3 begins?
Yes. Yeah, actually, because that's another Raccoon City explosion. That's the train system underground explodes. So that's Raccoon City has just been fucked up in this series constantly. Every game, there's something that fucks up Raccoon City somehow. Until 3, where it gets nuked at the end.
So after 3, is Raccoon City done with?
Yeah, it's gone. It's nuked. Wiped
yeah,
off the map.
Like, and the Outbreak games show that like the site where it once stood is now like sectioned off and like it's not able to support life or anything, like because there's small traces of the T virus still around. Basically, it's like
I think it's also radiation stuff because it was a nuke
and radiation.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like a sectioned off, and I think it's established in the Outbreak games that Umbrella was in control of the site where it once stood.
Yeah, probably.
Until Umbrella was sued into oblivion when the U.S. government took over the spot.
Yeah.
Right. So, is there any connection at all between happened at the end of 3 and the start of 4, or just separate story?
Well, it's just Leon is now part of essentially the Secret Service, but like a super militarized version of that.
Okay, so that's the only connection, really.
Well, I mean, it tells the fall of Umbrella in the intro cutscene, where it's like, yeah, they were not allowed to share stocks, and so they crumbled. That, of course, destabilizes their bioweapon economy, but makes a pretty terrible black market that leads to, a lot of bad stuff. 5 is all about how the fall of Umbrella kind of led to a shadier, more gray area black market for bioweapons, now sort of funded by the BSAA, the guys who are supposed to be fighting them. There's a lot of corruption in Resident Evil.
It's not so much 5 that goes into that, it's more so Revelations.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, they actually do kind of, it does actually culminate with RE8 when it shows that the BSAA is now using like makeshift tyrant units as part of like their squad.
Yeah, they all got that shotgun from 7, which is a sick design.
Yeah.
It's essentially not an AA-12, but like it's meant to appear, modern rifle look of shotgun. But I can't remember what its most clear design indicators are. It's a semi-auto. It's essentially designed after a scaled up 12 gauge AR-15 with the SAI or Salient Arms International GRY muzzle brake as like their monolithic barrel assembly.
So, how did the president's daughter get where the area that we need to rescue her from?
She was just visiting Spain, essentially, I think, and Krauser was part of her escort,
No, I think what happened was she was at her college camp, at least in RE4 remake, because they kind of spell out what happened. In both the original and remake, it was Krauser that abducted her and sent her to the Los Illuminados in Spain. But I think they leave it a bit more vague what happened in the original. But in the remake, she was in her college campus in Massachusetts, I think.
Really? Because maybe I'm mistaking the opening sequence.
Like, because there's a file in 4 remake that like shows what Krauser did to abduct her. Like there was like this step-by-step thing.
I missed that.
And like where she was like handed off like a different escort, and it explicitly puts her in the United States because it like shows her like getting snatched by Krauser, and then she gets put on a boat that's like sending her to Spain.
Where is this file? I entirely missed it.
It's like I think it's like around the point where you fight Krauser.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's a wrong place, wrong time type of situation then.
No, it was a design thing. Krauser waited for her to be vulnerable, and he decided to sell her off to the Los Illuminados. Probably contracted by them. He's already disillusioned because of Operation Javier. So he decides, fuck this government. They probably colluded with Umbrella. That's that's what I think he kind of did. Or not fuck this government, but kind of like, fuck it. Power's all that matters here.
So if she like she died in the original, so if she dies, is that like a bad ending or just doesn't?
No, it's a fail state. It's what the game does.
Okay,
it's
so
a game over.
Okay, so it's not like you forgot you didn't say.
Yeah, the multiple ending stuff kind of stopped with 4.
Okay, you think that was a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, if you want to tell a cohesive story, you got to decide on one timeline, or you got to decide on one ending.
I mean,
most of 3.
Yeah, that is the consequence of doing multiple ending kind of thing. Like, if you're familiar with, this is off of Resident Evil, but if you're familiar with the Metal Gear Solid games, Metal Gear Solid 1 had 2 endings.
Yep.
Basically, the main difference is that in one ending, Meryl lives, another ending, Meryl dies.
Yeah, and the Meryl dies ending is until 4, the canon one.
Well, what happened was MGS2, Meryl does not appear at all or get reference, and apparently that was to continue it as if you had gotten either ending. Because even though she's not seen or mentioned, they never mention that she dies.
Well, it's just because Otacon has survived in that.
Yeah, Otacon survives no matter what.
Does he? I thought he died from the bomb.
No, he doesn't. Like, he offered to sacrifice himself in the Meryl ending of the original, but because the nuke strike is called off, like, he lives. It's just that he's separate from Snake and Meryl.
Okay, I kind of forgot that detail. It's been a while since I played 1, actually.
Like, he does offer to stay behind and sacrifice himself, but then that becomes unnecessary because the strike gets called off.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, he lives no matter what. Like, the only difference is if Meryl lives or dies. So, MGS2, like, I guess the main, what got people assuming that the one where she dies is canon is just because the one where she dies, Otacon explicitly goes off with Snake.
Yeah, I just remembered why I thought he died.
There is one little hint in MGS2 that shows that the Meryl lives ending was canon.
Yeah.
It's that he has the infinite ammo bandana.
I mean, I just consider that a gameplay thing, but yeah,
it was more a gameplay thing, but yeah.
It could be. Yeah,
and
that's
then
a good little connect.
MGS4 explicitly made the Meryl Lives ending canon since she appears in the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Unless it's a clone.
Yeah, like,
What if
I
it's
know,
all
like,
made of nanomachines?
because I know some games have bad endings and good endings and regular endings.
Well,
like,
RE1 had like good endings and bad endings. I think I remembered reading somewhere the reason why RE1 had the multiple endings was specifically just in case the game didn't take off, and like they just had some way of like having like a conclusive ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Metal Gear is another one of my core franchises where it's like, oh yeah, I'll spurg out about this. Absolutely, it's great. It's fantastic. Great series. Insanely convoluted timeline that is only made more and more complex by adding more ingredients to it, which like this directly contradicts other stuff. What the fuck?
Well, there are some games that are explicitly not in the continuity, like the Metal Gear Acid games are not canon.
I thought they were a weird level of canon.
Well, I don't think the Metal Gear Acid games are in the same time.
I'm thinking of Portable Ops. I might apologize.
Portable Ops is
like one isn't canon, or one is canon and two isn't. One of those two.
Like the thing with Portable Ops is that it was not directed by Hideo Kojima, but despite that, at first they were considering it canon because I think MGS4 doesn't mention it a little bit. But then Peace Walker, aside from one reference at the start, they pretty much ignore it.
Yeah.
And like most timelines nowadays just kind of skip over it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is just deniable ops that are just, you assume they could have happened anyways. It's just more and more of what breaks Big Boss from the government, you know?
Yeah.
But before you logged on, we're talking about between the one remake and the two remake, they re-released one of different time. They
re-released the remaster like a bunch of times. It's for Xbox 360, Xbox One, Switch, PS3, PS4. Yeah, it's one of the most ported games.
That's the case with RE4 remake.
Oh yeah,
with RE4, right?
Absolutely, it's that and Skyrim are like the two most ported games on. And
it's funny because RE4 is probably the game I own the most copies of.
I believe the same, yeah.
My very first port of playing it was the digital PS3 version.
Oh, I was back in the GameCube days, dog. Those were fun days.
Then I got the Wii. Then I believe I got the Wii version. Then I got the GameCube and PS2 versions out of curiosity. Matter of fact, I used to have a standard edition copy of the PS2 version, but now...
Yeah, I remember going to Game Dude with my dad, getting RE4. It was a great time.
Yeah.
2005.
Snick probably knows what game I have the most copies of.
This
let me guess.
the Steelbook of the PS2 version.
Nice. Let me guess. Kingdom Hearts. Something with Kingdom. No, it's not Kingdom Hearts. Really?
No,
oh shit.
PS2, PS3, and PS4.
Damn, I was gonna try to be clever and be like, but it's not Kingdom Hearts. This is a trick question.
Actually, it was.
Yeah, no, I was right.
I got the first three games not the first three games. I got the remake of Chain, the 1 and 2 for PS2, and then I got the funny story. Off topic, funny story is I actually got a PS3 just to play the HD remixes because at the time, quote, they said we are not going to release this game on the PS4. Like, okay, I'll buy the PS3 then.
Remember? Oh man, that reminds me of how hard I've been laughing at the original GameCube release of Resident Evil 4 had only on Nintendo GameCube, and it's like, yeah, that was a fucking lie. It's on every console. The only more ported game I think is Doom.
There's a couple of stories with that. So number one, it was exclusive to the GameCube
at the time
for less than a year, and the PS2 port got announced just before the GameCube version released.
It's so funny. That makes that even funnier. Holy shit. Did they just not talk to their packaging guy?
Yeah.
So
we're planning
thing is,
PS2 maybe, whatever.
Was part of what was called the Capcom 5. Like, you know the story of the Capcom 5, right?
I don't believe I do, actually.
So basically, the Capcom 5 was part of like this pledge Capcom gave to Nintendo about releasing 5 games that were going to be exclusive to the GameCube. And like this was after like their track record of like releasing like all the Resident Evil games like as GameCube exclusives, like the remake, Zero, the exclusive ports of 2 and 3. So RE4 was one of the 5 games.
Yep.
The other 4 games were Beautiful Joe,
Oh god, that game was
Killer
great.
7, some other game called Product Number 3, and the 5th game I don't know about.
Piano 3, I know that game. Holy shit. Isn't that the one with the mic?
Huh? What?
Isn't that
No,
the
not the
one
one
with
with the mic. No.
What's the one with the mic I'm thinking of?
Lifeline, you might be thinking.
That's what
of.
I'm
That was on
thinking
PS2, and that wasn't even Capcom. That was Konami.
Yeah, it just reminded me of a Capcom product.
Well, it was Sony in Japan, but Konami did the North American publishing.
Yeah.
So
the early 2000s was an amazing time for game, just graphical leaps all around.
So the 5th game of the Capcom 5, I don't know about it because it was canceled. And what happened is PN number 3 was the only game of the Capcom 5 that wound up staying GameCube exclusive, and that's because it didn't do so well.
Yeah, that's very just because no one liked it.
It didn't get that good of reviews, and it sold pretty badly. And ultimately, Beautiful Joe and Killer 7, they did launch as GameCube exclusives, except they didn't sell very well, despite their good reviews. So Capcom's like, sorry, we're going where the money is. And they quickly made PS2 ports of both those games, and RE4 had its PS2 port announced like pretty much just before the GameCube version came out. And it's funny because adding insult to injury is that the PS2 versions did have some benefits over the GameCube versions. Largely, RE4 had its exclusive content, like the Separate Ways campaign. Then Beautiful Joe had a whole extra mode where you could play as Dante from Devil May Cry.
Oh, that's where that meme comes from, featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Well, it was Shin Megami Tensei.
Oh, yeah, that was Shin Megami. Leon gets around technically, because I consider Leon and Dante essentially the same.
Well,
even though, they're technically, I know.
Devil May Cry 1 was one of the various pitches for RE4.
It's literally, it wasn't the story because literally they couldn't fix that. They didn't understand how to fix the glitch of juggling enemies at the time. And it's like, fuck it. Hideki Kamiya is like, fuck it. I'm making a game out of this specific bug.
Well, I think the main reason they spun into its own thing is because more and more it less and less resembled a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, I just heard that the start of that seed was because they had the ability to juggle enemies. I heard that somewhere that's the start of where that happened.
So, I mean, Devil May Cry 1 does have the most like Resident Evil influence out of like compared to like the later games.
It is the least anime one, yeah.
But yeah, so the thing. Then let's see. Then Killer 7, I guess the benefit the PS2 version had there is that it was on a single disc, whereas the GameCube version was 2 disc. I mean, well, then again, RE4 was the same.
Yeah. I also think a lot of early games were on multiple discs.
A lot of big ones, yeah. A lot of
the thing is, the GameCube, there were plenty of games that were multi-disc on GameCube, but they could be single disc on PS2 because PS2 discs could store more.
Which is weird because like they had to compress a lot for Resident Evil 4. Like all the sounds are hyper compressed in the PS2.
Yeah, and the graphical and that's the thing. Like overall, the graphical quality, especially for like Killer 7 RE4, they took a big hit on the PS2.
I'd say the graphical fidelity is one of the most things that stayed the same. Actually, I just think the sound quality just took such a hit for RE4 on PS2.
It's funny because I played RE4, the PS2 version, on real hardware, and like, oh my god, like, I am completely spoiled by like the HD not just the HD versions, but also playing the PS2 version on PCSX2 with upscaling.
God, wow, that must run well. Holy shit!
Like on my new computer, like I can get on my new computer, which is not exactly a mega machine, but it is pretty good at emulating.
Yeah, mine's a low-end mega machine. I tend to run like Fatal Frame at like 8K internal render resolution, but Like I have to still limit it to 60 a second. That's awesome. No
Like,
one should have that much power.
I mean, like, I can reasonably do 1080p upscaling with PS2 games, and straight up RE4 looks basically like the HD remaster, except for the cutscenes.
Right now, I think I'm lucky if I can emulate 64 in NC64 games.
Yeah, I gotta play Star Fox.
But real fast, back to the game real fast. You said starting with 4, they stopped doing multiple endings. That mean they stopped doing multiple POVs too?
No, 6 has multiple POVs. It's the whole campaign is 3 campaigns.
Okay.
Or 4 technically.
Yeah, 4 if you count.
Because the Ada campaign, yeah.
So, but in 4 you only have one point of view.
Yeah, you're just following Leon. 5, you're just following Chris and Sheva. You can play as either, but they go to the same place. And then 6 is like globe hopping.
So in 5 you're basically the same story, but different characters.
Yeah, they become movies after 3 more so than they were before.
So like
they were obviously inspired by movies before, but they still had that gamified thing where it's like, well, we want you to replay it, so we'll have multiple endings.
But in the first 3 games, you're different locations, different people, not the same. I'm going through this as Leon, and I'm going to the same place as Jill, but
no,
you're different.
2 and 3 don't share a lot of like locational geometry other than the RPD, as far as I can recall, at least.
Okay, but
yeah, that is the RPD is basically it. Yeah.
But then they're both in Raccoon City, but it's a big city.
But different places.
Like, the thing with 2 is that while you are in the city, the grand majority of the game is in the police station. Then you go down the sewers beneath the police station. Then you find the Umbrella Lab.
Yep.
3 is set far more in the city itself.
Right. But like I said, like there's still different locations in the same. They're not repeating the same effect. But it's a different well,
if we're talking about like biomes too, RE4 has like a couple different like biomes, I think is the term, where it's like visual identities. There's a village segment at the beginning that goes into a castle setting, that goes into like the dungeons of the castle, and then goes to an island, and then there's like science labs on the island, and it's a trip, a lot of biomes.
And like even the enemies are like altered in appearance, like depending on what part of the game you're. Like when you're in the village, they all look like villagers and all that. Then when you're in the castle part, like lots of them are wearing like robes. They look like religious
cultists. Yeah.
And then when you get to the island, they're like they're dressed up in like military garb and whatnot.
Yeah. There's guys wandering around with 134s somehow. That's pretty fun. By the way, it's so funny how slow that minigun fires to me in RE4 that JJ has. Because the minigun's specific features that it fires real fast. Like, you know how fast the Matilda fires in RE4?
Yeah.
Okay, so multiply that by at least like 5 times.
Yeah.
In terms of speed. A minigun has a cyclic rate of hypothetically 6,000 rounds a minute.
Yeah.
That's how fast it goes. It's a Gatling gun attached to a car engine, essentially. The tech has actually existed for quite a while. We just weren't able to miniaturize car engines enough to make it feasible. It's an interesting fact to know. It's like we could have had miniguns in World War II. Could have.
Wow.
Technically. The theory was out there, at least, I think.
All right. So what happens in between 4 and 5 or before 4?
Okay, so post 4 is essentially business. We don't really know what happens in the day-to-day lives, but then after 4, we shift back into Chris's mode, where he is with the BSAA, essentially doing the dirty work, clearing out biohazard attack points, where terrorists now use bioweapons. Terrorists now use liquors in their like attacks on in destabilizing governments and shit. Like essentially, it's just these things have become products, which was the original intent in the first games. So now, but terrorists have hold of them. It's like essentially nukes, but much more localized.
Say Paris?
I mean, they haven't. I don't think Paris has been attacked in the Resident Evil universe yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me say that I think that'd be a little harder. If terrorists would attack, I think a little harder to cover up than this point.
I don't know. They had they got a city nuked. Umbrella got a city nuked, and it
And
took
they
them.
got it
That was the
covered
thing
up.
that had to take them out.
I'd be like,
I mean, in the movie
what
Resident
was
Evil
covered up, I
Vendetta, New York City gets attacked.
Yeah, and then
I was gonna
weirdly,
say,
the zombies get healed. After
there
that
was
was
no
the
city
worst
there.
ending.
What are you talking about? There was never a city there at all. No.
I mean, essentially, I think that's kind of how
Well,
Raccoon
no,
sort
the
of
way
treated.
they cover it up they cover up Raccoon City is that they know the world knows it was destroyed. They just don't know why they had to destroy it. Like, they don't say it was zombies or whatever that did it. They say that it was like a waste spill or something like that.
I thought some oh, that might just be the movie where it's like, oh, we had a power plant meltdown and it blew up. Yep. Definitely, guys, trust us. We're the government. We never lie to you.
They had them on little 3 Mile Island / Chernobyl.
I mean, yeah, it's fucking crazy. You've heard of Plum Island, right?
Because no, what happened is because it's not like it's not that they don't know the city was destroyed. They know it was destroyed, and even though they cover up the cause of it, it's still very controversial. Like, the president of the U.S. at the time in the series universe still has to it still resigns over it because of his decision to do it.
So this is the president before
I think the president that's before the one from RE4.
Yeah, because that guy, that's his first term, I think. Is RE4? He's coming into the. I think it's actually 2 presidents after the 98 president.
I believe, maybe, yeah.
Because the timeline is 6 years.
Oh, speaking of the president from RE4, did you see the Netflix show Infinite Darkness? Well, technically, I say show. You can tell it was just another animated movie they chopped into parts.
Yeah, it's just they decided, hey, this story is a little too long form, and we're not going to cut anything. So
it's not even long form.
Yeah, it's 4 episodes. Come on,
yeah,
guys.
like literally, when you put the episodes together, it's about the length of one of the movies.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
Here's why I think they did that.
The parts called it a show.
I think it's because of the pacing. The pacing is of television.
Yeah,
like the script was probably written for maybe a longer series, even, but it has the pacing of a television show.
Yeah. But yeah, that series is notable because it was the first time we actually got to see like Ashley's dad, like the president.
Yep.
So, because he didn't appear at all in the original RE4, and people were thinking he was going to appear a bit more in the remake. No, aside from the opening montage, like he appears once in the opening montage, but then we still don't see him after that.
Yeah.
So what's the story of 5 then?
That is Chris and Sheva are investigating a potential outbreak or terrorist activity in Kijuju, which is I believe a fictional place in Africa. Mm-hmm. And Sheva her backstory is she had a similar, like a Raccoon City style event take her parents like years ago prior to 5. I think it takes place a little bit pre-4 when Sheva's family dies. I think it's post 3, pre-4. I think because Sheva's like 22. I think in 5.
Right. So we've gone from an American city to over to the other side of the world now.
Yeah, it's implied that world governments are working with these corporations at some level to produce some kind of super soldier program. BSAA is involved. The U.S. government is involved. All these organizations that are supposed to not be involved with this shit are kind of just involved. Actually, it leads to like the only confirmed like hookup in all of Resident Evil like canon in the games, where it's like Resident Evil, for as horny as the fans are, the games are immensely sexless. It's kind of awesome. It's very funny to me.
Horny?
Yeah, the fans are very. Do you remember when 8 was being released and everyone was losing their minds over Dimitrescu?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, big tall vampire lady, step on me, mommy. A lot of fans are very horny for Resident Evil, but there's only like 2-3 characters who have ever confirmed to have sex ever, and that's only because they have children. It's Wesker, Birkin, Barry, and then also Claire is confirmed to have slept with her boss in Revelations 2.
Ah.
Yes, that was, I thought, a very funny bit, actually. Revelations 2 was pretty good. I think people slept on that one.
Yeah, I liked Revelations too.
I just loved playing as Barry again. And also, that was my intro into... I've had shifting gameplay like lanes, sort of. Whereas I used to be pretty bad at games. I'm still not great, but I typically do first-person shooters a lot, and I don't play tactically. But then I've started playing tactically, and then I've also put that into third-person shooters and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, I can just do tactics that are real-life tactics that these guys probably would use, like you pie a corner a certain way, or you like open a door a certain way, and you check the corners in a certain order. So, and it just makes the game actually massively easier if you just use regular tactics. It's very fun, especially in the VR version of 4, which is like, the only thing that would have made that perfect is the weapons from 4 Remake, and also if you had the ability to like stabilize your pistols. Because like you can only one-hand your pistol in the VR version. However, Leon, as we've seen him in every other form of media, always has like a two-handed grip. Usually it's a pretty high control grip. Usually it's a lot of points of contact on the weapon, especially in Vendetta where he's just John Wick doing gun fu. It's pretty sick. But in the 4 VR version, you can only do one-hand grip on a pistol. You can do it for the two-hand for the TMP, though, which is sick. That's actually a pretty slick pistol in that version. Don't use it as an automatic weapon. It kind of sucks, but as a pistol, it's great.
What's the Resident Evil game where they went to like a whole they made a family a thing?
7.
Okay.
It's the first RE engine game.
So we're not there yet, but in 6, Sherry came back.
Yep, she's in her early 20s at that point. So that's 10 years.
What's her story then in this game compared to 2?
She's now I believe NSA agent.
I think she might be part of the same government section that Leon's a part of, maybe.
Leon's like I forget the acronym for his, but I think she's specifically NSA, National Security Agency.
So did like between 2 and 6, did Leon like adopt her as his daughter?
No, not to my knowledge, at least.
So
she kind of got taken by the government.
Okay, so like
at least that's implied in some like ending like plaques of 3, I think, actually.
Okay, I was wondering maybe if her parents are both dead, maybe like, oh, you're my daughter now or something type of thing.
Yeah, no, just the government took it from her from them. So, and in all likelihood, probably raised her pretty poorly, and she probably went through the fucking foster care system. That probably sucked, especially for someone with superpowers. So that would actually be something interesting to explore in media, is how Sherry grew up.
Yeah.
Probably would be a lot like the movie Chronicle, I'd imagine.
I mean, they do display some elements of stuff like that with like Rose and RE8.
Yeah. I think Sherry basically did the same path.
Yeah.
Just Rose has better tech now, and also weird anime like influences in that, which is like the fucking Shadow of Rose DLC was bizarre. I haven't finished it yet, but it's like, what the fuck is this even? She's just doing a fucking ayahuasca trip. Come on, guys.
So basically, she's raised by the government, and now she works for the government.
Yeah, Sherry works for the government now as an, I believe, specifically NSA agent, but like a field agent.
But still, that's kind of I guess kind of messed up to think about. Like she followed her quote parents' path.
Well, no, her parents were like not field agents; they were horrible scientists.
Well, I meant her new parents, the government.
I mean, aren't we all to some degree?
I mean, then there's also the fact that her co-op partner in RE6 is Jake, who is revealed to be Wesker's son.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Wesker and Birkin were co-workers.
Yep.
So because of that, you have their children working together, doing the opposite of what their parents did.
It's a very nice little
But-
what's the word? Loop.
Did they know their parents knew each other, or they?
Yes, they do.
Oh.
Sherry did. I don't know
Yeah.
if Jake does.
I don't think Jake knew at first, but I'm pretty sure Sherry elaborates it to him.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, by the end of RE6, so what happened is like because the thing is like the teams in RE6, like Leon's team, Chris's, and then Jake and Sherry, they do cross paths on occasion. The final team up that occurs is with Chris and Jake. And it's during this where Jake confronts Chris, because Jake finds out that Chris killed Wesker.
Yeah.
And Jake never really got to know him. So Jake confronts Chris about it. I think Chris reveals it to Jake.
And then Jake pulls a piece on him.
Yeah, Jake pulls a pistol on him, and he asks him, were you just was it personal, or were you just following orders? And then Chris says it was both.
Bit of both. Hang on one sec.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Brandon's got home.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we had to do some recaps when he gets here, but so starting in 7 they went. So what's the deal with 7? They were in a whole family got affected or something, or what?
Yeah, essentially. Because of some bullshit ship in Louisiana that carrying some bioweapons, that whole family got fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said 8 was the start of the RE engine.
No,
7
was the start of the RE engine. Eight did continue the story of 7, though. And 8 also, I mean, 7 had a lot of Easter egg references to the earlier games, but 8 does kind of tie it together with the earlier games a lot more.
All right.
Like, specifically, I mean, 8 ends up revealing that Miranda, like the villain of 8, was the mentor of Spencer, one of the founders of Umbrella. So,
I absolutely hate Colorado traffic, bro. There was a crash and it held me up by like 15 freaking minutes.
Damn.
15, huh?
It's
Yeah.
all that weed they're smoking over there. Just everyone's
Probably.
high. It's a smoke cloud over the city, like the T virus.
So you caught up. First of all, what was your introduction to the Resident Evil series?
Sorry.
To get you caught up to where we are now, what was your introduction to Resident Evil?
Well, this is a kind of interesting story. My dad actually was the one who had all the classic like Resident Evil discs for the PlayStation. I don't ever recall seeing 1, but I know for sure I at least played through 2 and some of 3.
Yeah.
And literally what I did was I snuck down and I grabbed the disc out of the case and I snuck it upstairs into my room to play at night where I wouldn't get caught. So I was literally playing it at like the scariest possible situation because if I got caught, done. If I died, I'm scared.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the series. That's where I got started with it.
And then we also talked about, at least according to Snick's opinion, the original the first four Resident Evil games and the remake are different universes. There's no overlapping canon.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's all fiction. It's all, you know.
I mean, the thing, because the events of those games have many different retellings, the thing is, a lot of the later entries don't reference specific events from these games, because the thing is, while they do change up a lot of stuff, they do all follow pretty much the same broad strokes. And the thing is, later entries tend to only bring up these broad strokes. Like, they don't really reference specifics from any one telling.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a series that generally paints with broad strokes.
Oh, we also talked about how we first got here. We talked about how it was originally called Biohazard in Japan, but they had to rename it to Evil in America.
And the reason why is because it would have been nearly impossible to trademark Biohazard in North America.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Weird.
apparently in the chat they said there's already a game called Biohazard in America.
That would be RE7. And basically, how they got away with that is because, so the games were called by their respective titles, like in North America, in like the West and Japan, and then they picked the opposite title for a subtitle.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
So North America and Europe gets Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Japan got Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. So,
Yeah, then we went through the stories of the first 3 or 4 games, how they're connected and not connected, and then we were talking about the first first real engine game with 7, where they went to that the family where they were talking about that
Bakers.
family house.
Yeah, the Bakers.
God damn, Jack Baker, R.I.P. My guy.
He was my
a good
favorite
man.
character.
He was a good man before he got taken over by the mold.
Yeah.
It's so sad when you play the Sisters DLC where you play as Mia, not Mia, the other one, the actual daughter. It's so sad seeing
Zoe, I think her name
Zoe.
is.
That's it. So when you play Zoe, it's just so sad seeing the Baker household as it's normal, because it's still pretty fucked up, and it's just a sad depiction of poverty.
And then finally we talked about what happened to Sherry between 2 and 6 and how she get her own game about her growing up.
I don't think a game would work for that, because it would, you're playing as a child, and they're not going to task a child to do most of these things unless it's a just early 20s Sherry, right before 6. But like,
A lot of
it would
games
probably be a book. I think that would probably be the best setting for it, as a book, comic book, something like that, or printed material.
The secret 12-year-old government agent.
I mean, I'm gonna be fair. We do a lot of shit in other countries with that concept. We probably shouldn't. I'm pretty sure I've heard of these stories where they kind of just get kids to operate occasionally. Not like usually combat. That's more of the local warlords guys, but we task people we shouldn't a lot.
Other thing I want to talk about with the game now. Do you think it was a good idea to have the higher difficulties be under lock before you beat the game, before you can unlock the higher difficulties, or do you think they should be available from the start?
I think personally that that follows the path I take. I start on normal and then do new game pluses on higher and higher difficulties.
Okay.
But I think the reasoning for that in the old days was because, you want to get replayability out of a game. If someone just beats the game at the hardest difficulty, like typically they locked endings around in the late 80s to around the mid 90s. Certain endings were locked to the highest level of difficulty. When that stopped being a thing, it's kind of be like, oh, well, just let them play, whatever.
Okay, so I was wondering if you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, like to get a death challenge beginning with, or either work.
Yeah, it's. I personally enjoy the progression of normal to hard to hard to hard. I enjoy that progression, so I don't give a shit about that. But I could see people being upset about not being immediately able to just go to the hardest difficulty. But it's just not something that affects me, so I don't think about it that much.
So you like the work your way up?
Oh, yeah, I like working my way to the top. I like starting off essentially unprepared, and then eventually just becoming a combat god. Which, by the way, Resident Evil 4 Remake makes it easy to do that. Holy shit.
I've never done the opposite. They start at the highest difficulty and then work right down to like...
Yeah, I don't know why you do that.
Then you're like...
I guess power fantasy stuff, but...
You're like... You're a god playing the easy mode.
Yeah.
I guess maybe people do that for speed runs. They get they master the high difficulty, so when they speedrun the game, the lower difficulty it's easy. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm gonna see if I have my results from my first playthrough of 4. See how many times I died, because it was like almost never.
Yes. I remember Snick only died in one chapter, didn't you? When you played the game.
Yeah, I died twice in one chapter, and it was the minecart chapter, and that was only because of some of the death traps getting me off guard.
Okay.
The first time was when I set off the dynamite, and I didn't think the rocks were gonna fall down. Like I ran like in
that one got me.
and then the rock I was supposed to run off to the side.
Yeah, that one got me.
And then the second time was during the minecart when I shoot at the sign to switch tracks, but I guess I did it too late, and I went down the wrong track and died.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Brandon? How many deaths do you have so far?
Well, I don't have access to the death counter because I'm still working through the remake, but I have seen the entire remake, so you don't have to worry about spoilers or nothing with me.
Wow, it doesn't tell me.
Oh, it doesn't even say?
It does
Really?
not tell me how many times I died on the end screen.
It does tell you, like, on the final results.
No, it does
like,
not. I'm looking at it right now. Game mode, standard, total playtime, 13 hours, 53 seconds, or 13 hours, 53 minutes, 57 seconds, 33 saves, 1 playthrough. There's no death information on this.
Because I know when I did my playthrough, it not only told me the amount of deaths. Well, no, it told me the amount of deaths on the individual chapters.
Yeah, that might be it.
Oh, yeah, you might have to go by chapters, I guess.
Why would they not tally that up? I wonder.
Yeah, why would they not add it to the total and add it at the end? That's kind of dumb.
Ridiculous.
But anyways, I've died quite a bit to the standard difficulty, because that's where I picked to start was standard. Usually I like to start on normal and then play hard if it's a game I'm not familiar with. But
I think I had about 10, maybe. I remember at least 10.
I've already died probably like 10, 20 times just trying to get used to the way the game controls.
I've been playing a lot of tactical shooters, so I kind of just fall into that.
I've been playing racing games, so
So you didn't start on the pre-standard mode then?
Yeah.
I can't talk.
God, Mike was so cool in the remake.
I love over the assisted option.
I know a good I miss that accent though. He was a Jersey trash guy in the original, and now he's not that anymore, if I recall correctly. Hey, I know a good bar. We get some drinks, Leon. Stare at some chicks. You see that president's daughter? She got ballistics, Leon. Ballistics, nuclear, ICBMs on that thing. I don't know why I like that accent so much. I have no connection to Jersey or New York, really. Just love the accent. So,
Brandon, what's your favorite? What's the game has your favorite story?
Resident Evil wise,
yeah.
I don't know. I really kind of like 2's story quite a bit, because that was really the first Resident Evil game I started with was the Leon disc of Resident Evil 2.
I just remember seeing your reaction to seeing like the opening FMV for like the first time in years, and I just remember you get Leon's you just get at the quote, Claire's like, "So you're a cop, huh?" or something like that, and then Leon's like, "Yeah, first day on the job, great, huh?" And then you're like, "Wait, first day on the job? That's gotta be a hell of a first day."
Yeah,
it was.
You know what's also really funny is that I really thought it was a good move in the remake of 2 to make the Matilda, the VP-70, Leon's personal weapon. I thought that was actually a really good choice.
I really
just logically, because no one else has this gun in the entire game. So it makes sense that the RPD is a weird... I mean, actually, I've been researching cops, like, ability, like, what weapons cops are allowed to use. There's not, like, a complete standard issue. There's, like, suggested. There's a minimum standard of quality expected, and there's like a list of approved pistols. So I guess Leon's one of them, but their standard issue is probably like is depicted as either the Browning of high power for like general officers, beat cops, people who just carry those guns, and then the Stars unit has the Beretta 92, the Samurai Edge.
Yeah,
I got a Bruni blank gun. I got to make it a Samurai.
Something Brandon said got me thinking. So in the original RE2 game, they're different discs for the different characters.
Yeah,
it was just a storage space issue at the time.
Okay.
PlayStation couldn't handle it on one disc. That's simply all it was.
Because those discs were like, how many?
Marvel that they got the FMVs on the N64 cartridge for the N64 version.
Yeah, but did they never release that? I thought.
No, the N64 version of RE2.
I'm thinking of Zero.
Yeah, Zero was meant to be on N64, but then that got canned and moved to the GameCube.
Yeah.
So now I may remember this wrong or not, but in the second game, at least, is in the remake, to unlock the ending, you have to play. I can't remember their names now.
Leon and Claire. You have to play both campaigns, and it's A and B to get the true ending.
Yeah, it was an A and B scenario.
So I need to play Leon, then Claire, then Leon, and that.
You play both campaigns.
It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Oh, I think.
And
there's the other side version.
And the thing is, they depict there's the Leon A, Claire B path, and then there's the Claire A, Leon B path. And there's plot differences between them. The thing is, for many, many years, it was the Claire A, Leon B scenario that was considered canon because it had some choices that made sense. Like, Mr. X was more so associated with Leon.
Yep.
And the biggest key difference in the Leon A, Claire B scenario, Sherry does not get the G virus. But the RE2 remake decided it was not going to go that path because it went the Leon A, Claire B route.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they do keep the key elements from the Claire A, Leon B, namely that Sherry gets the G virus, but no, they depict almost everything as the Leon A, Claire B. The only difference is being that Mr. X is mainly a Leon thing, though Claire gets him too, and Sherry gets the G virus.
Right.
Yeah.
We also talked about, if we got here, about in the first game, how trying to the 4 different endings in the first game where we tried tying them all together because different things happen each game and most of them aren't connected together.
Yeah, it's just there's no possible canon playthrough of one.
Yeah,
there's so many different variances.
Yeah, and none of them are canon.
Unless you stitch them together, unless you take the cutscenes and try to stitch them together yourself. But that's the only way to do it.
But no playthrough though, specifically.
Yeah, no playthrough.
So we heard Brandon's favorite game. What's your two favorite games? What's your two's favorite games in the series story?
I have to go with either the original RE2 or the original RE4.
I'm gonna say either original 3 or 4 remake right now.
If I were to rank the RE Engine games, I might put 8. It's between 8 and 4 remake for the top 2 spots.
Yeah.
I want to say 8 is what slightly edges it out, but I have to play 4 remake a little bit more and see if it sinks in.
So what makes the original 3 better in your opinion than the remake?
I'm one of the few who actually really did enjoy the remake. I just liked the first one. I liked the original better.
Well, the problem with 3 remake is that they cut a lot of content from the original.
Yeah, but I think they supplanted it with other stuff, didn't they?
Not too much other stuff, actually. Not
because I know the shortest playthrough of the original remake or of the original 3 is longer than the shortest, or is shorter than the shortest remake playthrough.
So what you're saying is the shortest playthrough of the original is still longer than the...
No, shorter. Other way. Huh? It's by 3 minutes or something, but a speed run of the original game is shorter than a speed run of the remake. That could also be due to pacing issues in terms of animation of walking. Who knows?
Yeah. Well,
but I thought, being fair, I will say as a $60 game, a little bit, whatever, man. But I enjoyed it enough to have not thought I wasted my money buying it.
So comparing the first 4 games and the remakes, what do you think they did good in the remakes, and what do you think they did bad in the remakes?
I don't know. I'm actually really easy to please on Resident Evil. I even like Dead Aim quite a bit. It was fucking stupid,
Dead
but
Aim, you say, huh?
yeah, I like it, but it's stupid. I love it. It actually kind of sets a lot of the later tone, now that I think about it, of it being massively silly. That kind of really wasn't a thing. Yeah, I love that game.
So
Yep,
it's
I
more-
got it right here.
Fantastic.
Oh, nice. So
love
it's more
the-
It's funny because in Dead Aim itself, like the main character Bruce is a lot like Leon, and there's also a very Ada-like character.
Oh yeah, it was
There
Resident Evil
is-
recycling.
Yeah, there is a Japanese exclusive like tactical RPG called Namco Cross Capcom, which is like a big crossover between Namco and Capcom characters. Don't ask why. Bruce and I forget what the other
I think.
I forget what her name is. Like Bruce and the other character from Dead Aim, they were chosen to represent Resident Evil in that game.
Yeah, it was a bizarre choice.
But to that game's credit, it did at least try to give them their own unique character instead of making them just Leon and Ada clones.
Man, though, when you said RPG, I thought like grenade launcher.
No,
Rocket for
not
float
like
grenade,
that.
like the 7. I like that one.
Because that game did get sequels on the 3DS, Project Cross Zone, which was not just Namco and Capcom. The first Project Cross Zone introduced Sega characters into the mix.
Oh, is that the one with Kiryu and Majima?
That would be Project Cross Zone 2.
Yeah, I love that. I love the
So,
screenshots I see from it.
And Project Cross Zone 2 also threw in a few Nintendo characters, namely from Fire Emblem and Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yep.
They missed this earlier.
So,
Sorry.
like, and the thing with those games is that they had more proper Resident Evil characters. Both of Project Cross Zone 1 and 2 had Chris and Jill, and Nemesis was like a boss unit character. And then the second Project Cross Zone also had Leon in there.
So
Notably, the first time Jill interacted with Leon before the upcoming Death Island movie.
So
The
how
difference
many?
being that Death Island is actually canon.
Yeah.
So how many side games are in the Resident Evil series?
Okay, so there's Survivor. I don't know if Gun Survivor is a different game or if that's also Dead Aim. There's
So there's 4
Gaiden
games
a
in
side
the
game?
Gun Survivor series. That's what they were called in Japan. Gun Survivor 1 was just Resident Evil Survivor in the US.
Yeah.
Gun Survivor 2 never came out in the US. It was Japan and Europe only. Basically, all it was a retelling of Code Veronica with the Gun Survivor gameplay.
And then Code Veronica X was born of that, right?
No, I think it came out after Code Veronica X.
I don't remember the timelines on that,
So,
so yeah, maybe.
like, Gun Survivor 2 is weird. Like, basically, the idea is that it's basically a nightmare Claire's having in her head when she's on that plane ride home after the events of Code Veronica. And what makes it trippy is that they put in a time limit to beat the stages in Gun Survivor 2. If you let the time limit run out, Nemesis from RE3 shows up and he'll friggin' like insta kill you if you let him catch you. Then Gun Survivor 3 wasn't even a Resident Evil game. It was a Dino Crisis spinoff.
Nice. I gotta get
Dino
into that
Crisis
series.
being basically Resident Evil but with dinosaurs.
Yeah, I gotta get into
And-
that. I hope they do a remake.
Yeah, it's
God, that'd be sick.
on Twitter. One of the Twitter accounts I follow did a pretty cruel April Fool's joke,
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
that Dino Crisis remake was in the
My
works.
mother did the cruelest fool's joke for me 32 years ago today, actually.
Ah, yeah.
My birth. Heyo.
I was gonna say
Gun
what's that?
Gun Survivor 4 was Resident Evil Dead Aim.
Yeah.
And then Gun Survivor 3, the Dino Crisis spin-off, was called Dino Stalker in the US. So, yeah.
Actually, that brings another thing to my head. Do you know Jurassic Park Trespasser?
Yes.
They should do a VR version of that.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be
You get to
so
see
sick.
the heart tattoo on the boobs in first person.
I mean, that would also be very funny as a little gag, but I think they'd probably do it something on the wrist. But it'd be
Okay.
funny to look. They could do it with the tech. You look down and see your health. It'd be
Yeah.
a funny little throwback, but they probably wouldn't do that.
Two things real fast. One, I was thinking Freeze It wasn't a remake, a side game. I was thinking, would they do? Did they go back in time and get the T virus to the dinosaurs in the past?
No, Dino Crisis is its own series. Like literally, aside from like sharing gameplay differences, Dino Crisis is not the same universe as the Resident Evil games. But RE3, the original, did let you play as Regina from Dino Crisis, the main character of the first two Dino Crisis games, as like an alt outfit.
Yeah, I think it's literally Jill cosplaying as Regina, which might imply that Dino Crisis, the game, exists in Resident Evil. You find it at a store.
No, the dinosaurs have nothing to do with like the biohazards.
No, I mean that it's a game in the universe of Resident Evil. Like Jill could play Dino Crisis.
Yeah.
That's a potential thought. I don't know. Maybe I think too much on that.
So for the future games, which remake are you looking forward to the most?
5. Can't wait to see Sheva in the RE engine, man. Holy shit, nice.
I really want to see Code Veronica X.
Yeah, that'll probably be the next one. No, actually, it might not be. Who knows?
People have been asking for RE1 to get remade in the engine, for Code Veronica to get remade, and now they're asking for 5.
Yeah, so, I want 5.
We might as well redo the whole series at this point in the RE engine.
They want to, they want to remake the remake.
Yeah, I mean, that would be funny for another Resident Evil 1 remake. That would be very funny.
Really funny, actually.
And then they did another after that. It's like, nope, we fucked up, guys. Actually, let's do it again.
Hey guys, we've got RE1 for the PS6. We ported it again.
Before they even make
3 more
RE5 remake that they remade the 1 too.
Man, the weapon choice in RE is all. I'm looking through some screenshots I've taken. The weapon choice in RE was always cool. It was like weird.
Yeah, that's like the future games, like in the first game, you get to burn certain things for them.
It's the Crimson Heads in 1 remake that didn't exist in the original version.
Okay,
did they? I like that addition.
Did they do that future games too, or just the first one?
The Crimson Heads show up occasionally. They're usually part of the Raccoon City timelines, where anything that takes place in Raccoon City, they typically will have the Crimson Heads at some degree.
And you have to burn them in the future games too?
No.
Not
it's
really.
just that's the end point of a zombie. And I think it's the start point of a licker, sort of.
I think it was supposed to be like a kind of weird in-betweener thing.
Yeah.
Like they were supposed to be an in-between, and multiple times this got cut out because I watched videos about cut content. And there was supposed to be an in-between state, like licker, where it had its skin on and stuff, but it would still be a licker and it would attack you with its tongue and stuff. Still.
Isn't that sort of what they did in Outbreak? With that one boss?
I'm not too sure. I haven't played that one.
Oh, Outbreak's fantastic. Actually, Outbreak's one of my favorites, especially because of the intro. The intro of Outbreak is one of the most amazing FMVs I've ever seen.
So, what do you think about in 4, where they instead of like they did a different kind of infection than different from the first 3 games?
Yeah, it's just it's competing. It's companies competing with weapons tech is the crazy thing.
Yeah, it made sense to me. It was the next bioweapon on the market. It would make sense that the black market bad people of the universe would want to take advantage of the next newest and biggest thing.
Well, yeah, it's just they had recently. I think they discovered the Plagas in like. I don't know if it was pre or post Raccoon City evaporation. I don't know that timeline specific. I used to have I think I still have the archives book somewhere. And that explains a lot of the timeline, but it doesn't. It's a printing that doesn't have 4 in it, so probably wouldn't have Illuminato stuff. But yeah, I think it's sometime post Raccoon City, but pre 4 they've been experimenting with those Plagas. Actually, it could have been from. I don't know. The timeline gets so weird on Resident Evil sometimes.
Yeah, wasn't there Plagas in Operation Javier?
No,
or were you fighting something
there
else?
could be because Operation Javier was developed after the Plagas idea had happened. Krauser was introduced in Media Res essentially, and then they had to explain a backstory for him, and that was Operation Javier.
Well, no, Operation Javier had the T. Veronica virus, at least in Darkside Chronicles. They leave it vague in RE4 remake, but yeah.
Mm.
Essentially, wasn't that in RE4 remake? I'm getting a very Bay of Pigs vibe with that mission. Just in
Yeah,
terms
because
of tone.
in Darkside, because RE4 remake implies that it was an entire squad that was involved, but in
Yeah.
Darkside Chronicles, it was just Leon and Krauser.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Billy? I wonder.
Billy was from Zero.
Yeah,
and-
no, but I'm just wondering
Yeah, I
because
don't
he
know.
also had
it's-
a jungle mission that went pretty bad. Just jungle missions in the Resident Evil universe shouldn't
Yeah.
do. Or really ever. Jungle missions are bad, guys. Don't operate in the jungle unless you're hyper lethal. Like Leon.
The entire Jaguar jungle thing got infected with the T virus.
Well, that was pretty cool in Outbreak when you saw different animals that, like at a zoo, infected with the T virus. That was sick.
Yeah.
The fucking elephant was so cool. And then the tigers or lions, maybe it was. Bears. Oh my.
Now, I do have a question. Since I haven't put I'm deep in the games or stories. These are the quote zombies. Are they like individual mind, or they like a hive mind?
That, I think, sort of depends on interpretation. I see the T-virus zombies, they're all individual no-minds, essentially. Their only
Yeah.
purpose is to keep spreading that virus. Much
Shambling
like William
husks.
Birkin with the G-virus, but he has a level of intelligence that allows him to pick specific targets rather than anything that's close to him. Nemesis is about that same level of intelligence where he can recognize friend, foe. That's because the European branch with the Plagas, actually. The Plagas development had to start before Resident Evil 3, actually, because of the fact that Nemesis uses some level of Plagas tech.
Oh yeah, he does have like tentacles and stuff.
Yep. And that comes from the intelligence of this, probably the subject, but also the Plagas allows him to keep certain
Nemesis
levels.
does use a parasite, but I don't know. I mean, maybe maybe the remakes may
It does.
have
Lewis
inserted
was
like
specifically
Plagas
on the
logic
team.
into it, but not like in the original series.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in the remake one, though. Lewis is explicitly connected to the Nemesis team, from what I
Yeah.
recall.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very likely that Plagas tech was used in even the original's version. It's just they want it. The concept is they did the thing because it was cool, and then it's like, how do we make this work logically? It's a fun exercise in writing. Actually, I've done it a lot recently, where it's like, I want my character to have a vibroblade katana. Why would he have that though? Well, I have to think of a reason. Which the reason is because they're cyborgs and it's a hypersonic vibroblade that can cut through metal. That's the reason. Standard issue for my guys in this script I'm working on right now.
Oh.
It's called New Soul, Old Souls. Soul spelled, Korea, because it's a Korean thing. It takes place in Korea. I'm actually very proud of where I've gotten it lately. I'm very excited to get back to work on it.
So, yeah, like, else you guys want to talk about the game series or the remakes or anything?
Yeah, I just think Resident Evil 4 remake is it's everything I could have wanted from it. It's holy shit. The combat is so smooth, and every time I die, it's like, oh man, I should have seen that. It's never a man, that's bullshit. It's just fuck, didn't see that one. Damn it. I always feel I can turn it around,
Oh, Brandon, that reminds me. Wright mentioned something about how in the remake the escort mission was much easier than the original. Do you think that's true too?
So far, yeah, I think it does feel a lot easier because I don't have to care about Ashley's health really.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic, honestly. It gives me a chance to heal more because, goddamn, I'm getting my ass beat by the fucking Nuganatos. They are so smart and they can push you around and shit, which causes you to just be in bad situations.
You know what you can do though? You can parry their Molotovs back at them.
Yeah, I'm not
I've
very
done it.
good at the parrying. I have to get
It's
way
so
better at it.
fun.
It looks crazy.
It's so sick.
Yeah, he said
So sick.
he said the advice to do that is to push her in lockers.
Oh yeah, that's what I do with Ashley. Is
Yeah.
anytime I can treat her
Uh-huh.
like a dumb nerd in high school and shove her in a locker or a trash can, I'm gonna do
Yep.
that, and she's just gonna hear pops.
Well, the only thing is, unlike the original where you put her like in a locker or trash can, she stays there. In the remake, a couple of times I would put her into a locker. I would go off to a firefight. All of a sudden, she's running in the middle of the fight. Like, I thought I told you to stay in a locker, but no, she comes out.
I've never experienced that.
The best I can tell is that in the remake, if you run too far away from the locker, she goes into this "don't leave me" attitude, and she comes out on her own and rejoins you.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So literally, if she dies, it's game over then.
But yeah, it's your mission is a failure.
Your mission is a failure. Your whole point is to save her.
Yeah.
Although I did find it hilarious in the original. If you did accidentally shoot her, fucking Leon goes, "Ugh, no." But
yeah.
In the remake, he doesn't do that anymore.
He's like,
yeah.
Yes, go.
Oh, yeah. Ryan also mentioned that in the remake, at least, you can have the other side kill each other. That enemies kill each other.
Oh yeah, friendly fire is so cool in that.
It's
Especially when it's on
hilarious
power
watching
enemies.
the chainsaw man push the fucking guys out of the way and kill them.
Oh, I had a thing where a Garrotor took out like 3 fucking cultists in the corridor.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
Infighting is hilarious when CPUs can do it. I loved it in Doom, and I'm liking it here when it happens. It's hilarious.
It's so fucking funny. Also, the ability, as I said before, the ability to mount the biosensor scope on the M4 or MP5 makes me a god in this.
Yeah.
Jesus. Photo mode's also great. I'm looking through some photos I've taken of it with it. Gorgeous game.
Yeah,
So
I'm really
moody.
jiving with RE4 remake. I'm really, really liking it.
Yeah.
So all 3 of you have beat the game at least once, right?
I've beat the game, yeah.
I think I'm on my 3rd right now.
Still working on the remake, but yeah, I've beat the original countless times.
Yeah. VR on that is so good too. I want a PS5 for the PS5 VR version, but I'm hoping they'll port that to PC some way.
That would be swell, because I have, when I build my new computer, I'll have the whole setup for it.
Yeah.
It would be nice to not have to buy another headset.
So how is the process going?
Well, I got my CPU selected and I bought it recently because it was on sale.
Nice.
Just waiting for paychecks and building the other parts, basically. Takes time.
Really does. It sucks. But thankfully, GPUs are not nearly as expensive as they were like the last couple of years. Holy shit.
And they're a bit easier to get than they were, too.
Yeah, thank God for that fucking crypto crash.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So are you going for an HDD drive or an SDD drive?
Oh, I'm going for M.2 SATAs.
Yeah, I would say at least SSD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, M.2's, I'm probably going to have like 2 terabyte sticks, because I think there's 2 terabyte sticks now that exist.
Nice.
Well, if nothing else to talk about, I think.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna go play some Resident Evil 4 remake.
Now I really want to play it.
Anything you guys want to advertise?
Yeah, give me a sec.
I put out a new SFM animation. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Well, no, it's not April Fool's anymore. It was just an April Fool's joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually looking for animators to work on this script I'm doing. I got to finish the script first, but I'm like 50 pages in. We're around the middle of Act 2, maybe around the end. But you can find me at Right On Target, Twitter and Instagram, also on YouTube. My Twitch is right_on_target. Oh, it just fucked up my shit. Damn. It was working. Anyway, Twitter, Instagram, Right On Target, YouTube as well. I plan to do I do a lot of music videos. I have a couple ideas. One is a My Yamane cover of Sympathy of the Devil set to Black Lagoon footage. I've got another one where there's wait, hang on. I got one of maybe either Hellsing Ultimate or Black Lagoon coming out. A bunch of things. I'm actually really proud of my recent
Mr.
Are you
talking about the animes?
Yeah, I actually auditioned for Hellsing Ultimate. I auditioned for
Freaking, I really enjoy the Black Lagoon anime.
Oh, Black Lagoon's fantastic. Have you seen Jormungand?
I don't think so.
Jormungand is in a similar vein of like that tactical action, but Jormungand is amazing because it's a team of guys who are just mercenaries, and it's like the action is good, but also like the chatter is very fun too between these people. The relationships and dynamics between the squads are very cool.
Yeah.
And I actually did a music video using Jormungand footage set to Jimmy Necco's The Heart, and I'm very proud of that video. It's like 6 minutes, but it's fantastic. But I do want to promote my most recent video, the Goodnight or Mr. Goodnight set to Cowboy Bebop the movie footage. I'm going to submit that one to probably Anime Expo this year. It's just hitting the time limit, just at the max time limit, but I'm very proud of it. It's some of the best work I've done. I actually might do a little slight edit for it, but yeah, there's some syncs in there where it's like amazing to me. I just did that one night on mushrooms and it was like, wow, this is great. It's fantastic. Good experience.
What about you, Brandon? Anything coming up on your channel that you want to talk about?
Well, I'm midway through my RE4 playthrough. I've been streaming that because I can stream stuff through my Elgato and PS5 still.
So
Not really any PC content because I don't have a PC anymore.
Are you going to do that after you log off here, or are you going to go to sleep?
Well, I am going to get a new bed tomorrow, so I have to move a bunch of shit out of my room and clean it up because the bed I have is falling the hell apart.
So sorry, folks. No, RE follow up this.
Yeah,
thing.
not tonight because I've got so much stuff going on, but I do have like that playthrough going on. So yeah.
Check out his channel to see his, and check out Snick's channel to see his playthrough. As for me, next week, me, Snick, and Eric are going to be talking about the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series trilogy.
Right.
Then in 2 weeks, if I get to guess, we're going to be talking about the constitutional amendments, what they mean nowadays. In 3 weeks, I'll be interviewing a Kingdom Hearts YouTuber, his thing, and then in 4 weeks, my guest will be talking about his top 10 favorite English monarchs. So a whole bunch of random things in the future.
I was going to say English monarchs. I'm American. I don't like
Charles
them.
III. So yeah,
I actually think I'm related to Charlemagne.
Movies, a whole bunch of random shit on this channel coming up.
Yeah.
But until then, never stop learning and enjoy the randomness. We'll see you all next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Stand by me. We won't stand by you, and if you trust me, well, I went everything to lie.